Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2, 1, 2. Test 1, 2, test 1, 2. Test 1, 2, test 1, 2. Dear friends, good morning. Lenny and Bonnie were pillars of this community from way back, I believe over 50 years. And when you lose someone who is so instrumental, so integral to the life of the community, that loss is felt deeply. And during those times, our first instinct is to look towards our scriptures for some solace, for some comfort. And so at this time, I'll call on Rabbi Rosenthal to come forward and offer us a psalm.
I'd like to share with you the 121st Psalm. It beautifully expresses the idea that even when we can't see God, God is present in the heavens, watching over us, waiting to send help, and God is always at the ready. Shamayim v'aretz, Ezri me'im Adonai, Oseh Shamayim v'aretz. Shir lamalot esayena el heharim me'ayin yavo Ezri, Ezri me'im Adonai, Oseh Shamayim v'aretz. Al yiten lamot raglecha, al yanum shomrecha, hine lo yanum v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha al yad yeminecha, yom am hashemes lo yakeka ve'areach balayla. Adonai yishmorcha mikol ra, yishmor et nafshecha, Adonai yishmor tzeitcha uvoecha, me'ata ve'ad olam. A song for ascents. I turn my eyes to the mountains, from where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. Adonai will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. For the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai is your protection, a guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. Adonai will guard you from all harm and guard your life. Adonai guards your going and coming, now and forever.
Thank you, Rabbi, and thank you for singing it as well. It was beautiful, and I know Bonnie really appreciated the singing, as I've been told by the family. Those we love never pass away. They walk beside us each and every day, unseen, unheard, but always near, so loved, so missed, and oh so dear. So many things about Mom we will surely miss. Her loving hug, her tender kiss. We still can feel her warm embrace and see her bright and shining face. So God, please watch over Mom as she soars high towards heaven, to be with you for all eternity up in Gan Eden. Bonnie was born in the Bronx, but she was raised in Brooklyn. As a young girl, she loved Coney Island and attending synagogue with her father. Her first language was Yiddish, as her mom didn't speak English so well. So she didn't learn English until she began kindergarten. Bonnie attended Lincoln High School. She was very smart and graduated early. Education was very important to her, and when she met Lenny, she would only marry him after he agreed to attend college. She herself attended, as a family put it to me, the long college plan. Very long. She started college right after high school, but she stopped midway for 20 years to raise her family. Then she returned to university to graduate with a teaching degree and continued to complete her master's degree in the next 5 years. She then taught business education and secretarial sciences at college level. Those of us who are from here, from Temple Beth Sholom, we know that Bonnie was very, very active here, as is the entire Cooper family. She was active in the sisterhood. She served on many committees. She co-managed the TPS Judaica shop, handling most of the buying. She taught canasta and mahjong right here at TBS. And she really did all this to bring people together, to create connections. Temple Beth Sholom for Bonnie was her whole world. It was her happy place, right here. It was a place where every family life cycle event was celebrated, and every sad occasion was commemorated. Bonnie also really loved attending services right here at TBS with regularity. She had her own seat. And this place had a special place in her heart. And she loved the music and the liturgy. Her favorite song was L'Ador Vador. And later, after we hear from the family, we will sing it together for her one last time. L'Ador Vador wasn't just a song. There was a meaning in L'Ador Vador, which means from generation to generation, which was key to her character. When she turned 93, just recently, the children asked her, "Mom, how do you want to celebrate your 93rd birthday?" And guess what her answer was? "Take me to temple." So they came to temple on Shabbat, and she celebrated her birthday right here in her favorite place. Bonnie was a loving and caring wife, a mother-in-law, a grandmother, and lucky enough to also be a great-grandmother. She was a fabulous cook. She created delicious meals for family occasions and for Jewish holiday meals. She created them with love and customized the meals to every person's taste, so they had their favorite at the meal. And her chocolate chip sour cream cake, did I say that right? Chocolate chip sour cream cake was legendary. And she would regularly send mandel bread to her grandchildren away at college, just to make sure their experience there was sweet. She was loved by all, and she was an amazing role model to her family, to her friends. And therefore, her passing does leave a gaping hole in the hearts and minds of all who knew her. We will all miss her, especially here at TBS. So this really was just a synopsis of her life. And now we will expound on that synopsis by hearing from family who will speak from their hearts in detail about their mom, their grandmother, great-grandmother. I call on the family to come forward at this time.
Hi, I'm Tess, but you probably all know me as Tessie. Sorry. I'm Grandma Bonnie's youngest grandchild. Today, I wear Grandma's kippah in my hair. For almost 10 years, I have been Grandma's temple buddy, and I helped her pin this kippah to her beautiful hair each time. I have always loved going to temple with my grandma, for the high holidays, and sometimes even for Passover or a special birthday on Shabbat. My husband, on the other hand, enjoyed taking us out to Jolly Fisherman after. I have always been a proud Jewish woman, but I grew to love and appreciate Judaism even more through admiring my grandmother's devotion. It was always extremely special to me when my grandma would introduce me, a bit too loudly during temple, to fellow temple members as her baby's baby, as my mom Stacy is also the youngest of her 3 children. I loved to watch my grandma follow along with the service and point out where we were when I inevitably lost my place. I loved singing the prayers together and hearing her voice shine through. We both loved listening to the cantor in the choir, and we agreed that we had to stay to the end just to hear Adon Olam. My husband likes to share the story that when he first met my grandma 4 years ago, I warned him not to speak too much, as he can be known to do so. When we arrived at Grandma's apartment with breakfast, Grandma was the one who wouldn't stop talking. She was so excited to tell Zach all about our family and even give him a personal tour of North Shore Towers. Many people knew my grandma to be soft-spoken. She always tried her best to listen to the rest of the family, as we all interrupted and spoke over one another. However, my favorite moments with Grandma were when we were alone, and she would tell me stories about her life and our family. She spoke about her children, my mom and my aunts and uncle, with such pride. She also spoke about my grandfather Lenny with such love and admiration, and although I didn't get to know my grandpa, I felt that I grew to know him through my grandma's stories. I also always loved telling Grandma about my work and my friends, as she listened and asked specific and insightful questions along the way and told me about her own experiences with education and teaching. I am so grateful that my grandmother watched me grow up and was here to witness me get married twice to the same person and join us for an intimate ketubah signing in the middle of a pandemic. I am grateful that I received Long Island's premier canasta and mahjong lessons. I am grateful that every time I saw my grandma, I would have the best home-cooked food in my refrigerator and freezer for several days. I also feel particularly grateful that I led the charge in commandeering 2 of her famous baby blankets for when Zach and I decided to start a family of our own. I can only hope that I will create a family as beautiful as the one that my grandmother gave to us all.
Morning, everyone. So, I'm Bonnie's grandson, Jonathan, and I thought today I'd share a little bit about my relationship with my grandmother. Bear with me, I'm not the greatest public speaker, but I'm going to give it a shot. So I did get to talk to my grandmother quite often, and not just by phone. Not many people of her generation are actually very proficient in texting, but my grandma Bonnie was actually a pro. She even sent an emoji and a GIF here and there. Her tech savvy didn't quite extend past texting and using her Apple TV to stream all of Netflix. And when I say all of Netflix, I mean she watched all of Netflix. She had a lot of recommendations. And she watched it fast, too. It was hard to keep up. So for those of you who don't know, I work in IT, and if you ask my grandma, I was her personal tech support. And I'd like to share some of our conversations. The first is the quintessential grandma text trying to and failing to set me up with a friend's granddaughter. So this is my grandmother. My friend is after me to have you call her granddaughter. You have her picture. The ball is in your court. I said, I think I need her name and contact info again. I lost the picture, but I'll get in touch with her. And she said, I will call my friend tomorrow and get the info. Suffice it to say, and I'm going to let my fiance Rachel know, don't worry, it didn't work out. So these are really just a synopsis of how her and I really, bonded. So this is her saying, I'm not getting sound on my computer. Can you fix it? Also, how do I get movies on demand on the TV? Me, the computer I should be able to fix, so give me a minute on that. But movies on demand is another thing altogether. Her, I will ask Ron about that. He has Time Warner. Okay, you should be good with your sound on your computer now. She said, I will try it soon. Now I am having breakfast. Thank you. You're welcome. I'm still not getting sound. This is a couple years later. How do I shut off Pandora? It came on by itself. Someone keeps talking. I want it to stop. I was a little busy at work at that time, but I think she got it to stop. Here's another perfect example, because she was very good at making sure that she wasn't getting... She got a phony phone call, and she basically said, did you call me? I think I got a phony call from someone saying he is my grandson. I did not call you, Grandma. If they call back, don't pick up. Okay, I hung up on him the first time. Fast forward, I thought you cleaned up my emails. I am getting more now than ever. I can't get any at all today. I'll have to speak to you about this tonight, Grandma. Thank you, it worked. I'm not sure what I did, but it worked. Okay, I have all 2015 emails on my computer now. There are 814 messages. Let's get rid of them tonight. I do my thing. Okay, Grandma, you should be good to go. I deleted all of your old mail and saved your password so you don't have to keep typing it in. Good. My alarm keeps going off every 10 or 15 minutes. How do I stop it? My print is much smaller. How do I get it back to larger print? I also think my ringer is off. Call me later in the day to help me fix my problems. I wanted to also mention this. I'm not sure if she's here, but when I wasn't around, Gita was actually my backup. So she mentioned quite often that if I wasn't able to help, Gita is my savior. We have Netflix working, by the way. This is a doozy. What is my Apple ID? I want to get the ShopRite app on my phone. It's your email address. It's all taken care of. I now have the ShopRite app on my phone. Thank you. Okay, good. What do you need it for? They are offering specific savings online. Ah, okay, so you found it in the App Store and downloaded it? Gita's an expert on the computer. I'm glad it all worked out. Enjoy. Oh, it actually went on. But you get the gist of it at this point. So, Grandma, I'll miss playing blackjack with you. Hold that thought. My Annalise wanted one more thing for me to remind everyone of, because there was one thing that she knew how to do I could never figure out was her sleep timer on her TV. But now I'll conclude. Grandma, I'll miss playing blackjack with you and hearing about your latest Mahjong game, eating your delicious food. And luckily, I still have some saved in the freezer. and hearing about all the different shows you streamed when Netflix was cooperating with you and being your personal tech support. We love you, and we will miss you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here. It means a lot to our family. I am Jessica, Bonnie's eldest granddaughter. As a little girl, Grandma showed me everything from cooking to gardening. She even taught me how to gamble. She taught me at a very young age how to become domesticated. She would remind me, everything has a place. This way, you will always know where to find it. She was determined for me to learn all of her recipes. After a little resistance, I started cooking with her. I mean, going to her apartment pretty much every weekend. What are we making today, Grandma? Manzel bread, you're chopping the nuts, she would say. What are we making this weekend, Grandma? Meatballs, you're making the meatballs. And I did. For many years, I am so glad that I did. I have memorized all of these recipes. These recipes are ingrained in my family. Her great-grandchildren ask for Hawaiian chicken for dinner, or they ask for me to make them mandel bread. Yes, this is what they do, and it is because of her. She was wholeheartedly the word tradition. That is what families are made of, tradition, passed from generation to generation. Many of you knew that Grandma knitted baby blankets. This became a wonderful hobby of hers. Knitting was another favorite thing of hers. I cannot count the times that people have said to me, we have one of Bonnie's blankets. She has knitted hundreds of baby blankets. Her blankets have become staples in people's families. This synagogue, where we are gathering, is extremely meaningful to her. This synagogue gave her tremendous joy over the decades, yes, decades, of how long she's been a member of this shul. Showing off her grandchildren, Jonathan, Ara, and Tess, was one of her favorite things to do. She watched her children get married here, bar and bat mitzvahs, baby namings. This synagogue was her second home. Nothing would have made her happier than to have all of these people gathered here with her to celebrate, sing, and most importantly, be together. I love you. I will miss you. The memories of you will live within us forever. May your memory be of a blessing. Rest in peace.
Hi, everybody. A bunch of years ago, the Tower Times, the North Shore Tower's local newspaper, wrote an article about my mom. I regret that I didn't frame it for her. That article meant the world to her. She made copies for all of us. I had one, Elise and Stu had theirs, and Mom's was kept close to her, right in her nightstand. It's kind of funny when I think about it now that some local North Shore Towers resident/journalist was able to catch the essence of my mom and what I believe is her legacy. The headline shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. It was The Mahjong Maven of North Shore Towers. But while titled that way, Mom's story was more than just about Mahjong. The article begins by describing how she created a, quote, dedicated following, teaching the game to many new arrivals. Quote, it's mainly for the women who move in here and have lost their spouses, she was quoted as saying. It's a way to meet people. It's difficult for many women who come here, and they make a lot of friends that way. Mom saw Mahjong as a community builder. Mahjong helped her build a community after my dad died, and it was something she paid forward in a really tangible way. You get a few women, you get 5 women together, and they become lifelong friends, is how she put it. Bumping into the women who make up that dedicated following while walking the North Shore Towers arcade with my mom over the many, many years she lived there is and will be one of my favorite memories. I love the impromptu stops, the how are you, the who are you playing with now? But mostly, I enjoyed hearing the appreciation that all of these women had for my mom. My mom's passion for teaching started when she was young. She loved language and wanted to be a language teacher. For a while, as the cantor referred to, she put that passion aside to raise us. I wish my 60-year-old self could tell the 30-year-old Bonnie not to have done that. I wish she would have pursued that passion during all of those years, and I wish that what she made so easy for me to do, she did for herself. So she waited a bit. Once we were grown enough, she went back to school. Quote, "I wanted to work desperately," she told this North Shore Towers reporter. I don't think I've ever heard my mom say the word desperately out loud, a sign to me of how important working and being out there was to her. Whether it was business school before she retired or Mahjong or canasta after, the feeling of watching a light bulb go on for a student was the high she described as the source of that passion and desperation to engage, the getting it part. It's funny because while I describe my mom as a quiet woman, I'm pretty certain her students, her game-playing companions, and yes, those who unknowingly sat down next to her at a blackjack table and made the wrong move, would likely disagree. Here, she was direct, unfiltered, and definitely not quiet. With us, she was soft-spoken, but like the passion she felt for watching others get it, she always got it. She always honed in on the so what, getting to the bottom line. As an advice on marriage, quote, "Sleep with him before you marry him." It's all true. She didn't need or use a lot of words to make her point, and sometimes I wonder if that is because her mom was deaf and read only Yiddish lips. She kept just a few other items beside the Tower Times article in her nightstand. Some I understand, like her daily calendar where she recorded every single Mahjong and canasta win and loss for decades, whether it was a nickel, a dime, or a dollar. Her teaching journals, which included every single name of every woman who comprised that dedicated following, and a single book, Jewish Children, a collection of Shalom Aleichem stories published in 1921. The book is a complete mystery. None of us know anything about it, where she got it, how long she had it, or what it meant to her, so we can only surmise its meaning. My hypothesis is that it represented her deep and strong connection to the temple, starting with her memory of going to shul with her father as a very little girl, of that being their very special time together, and her joy being here, as you heard Tess describe. I think this book is a symbol of her devotion, of her rising every time the ark behind me was opened right through Rosh Hashanah this year, even after she turned 93. I have to believe that's why she kept it so close. This is where my mom wanted to be today, to be celebrated for her long and rich life, for her love of family, reverence for tradition, and for what connects us generation to generation, l'dor v'dor. Many years ago, as I attended a groundbreaking ceremony for an affordable housing development nearby in Hempstead, as the elected officials stood around getting ready to pose for the obligatory photo op, a young neighborhood resident drove by. He rolled down his window, he shouted, "What are you guys doing?" And one of the officials answered, proud but hardly humble, "We're building affordable housing." And in a flash, the young resident shot back, "Man, you have to build people before you build housing." My mom understood that. She understood that each of us needs support and care and connection to thrive, and in her way, she made that the center of her life. Her legacy of building people, of building community through her passion for teaching and helping others get it will always be more than just an inspiration. It is a challenge for all of us to find our unique way to build our own dedicated following. Mom, I love you. Rest in peace.
Hello. I'd like to begin with a couple of thank yous. I'm Elise. I'm Bonnie's second child, oldest daughter. Thank you all for coming from near and from far to honor and celebrate my mother. I'd like to also thank all of my mother's caretakers and doctors who all did their best to honor her health care wishes and make her as comfortable as possible over the last 6 months. Finally, I'd like to publicly thank all those who had a hand in making my mother's final wish to have her funeral service here possible. So we all discussed the last couple of days, we didn't want to be too repetitive, but I had written my eulogy for my mother a couple of weeks ago, so I'm going to read it in full, and I'm sorry if it's a little repetitive, but I think in order to share my words completely, I need to read the whole thing. Things she would want us to remember. Her joys as a child, going to shul with her father and watching her mother, grandmother, and aunts in the Bronx when she was 4, 5 years old, bake and cook. Watching the Brooklyn Dodgers play and her father's Yiddish written scorecards, keeping track of all the players. She played the clarinet in the Lincoln High School band. She graduated high school with honors at 16. She received 100 on the geometry regents. She had to drop out of college the following year as her family could not afford the 5-cent subway fare. She went to college at night for 5 years when she and my dad were first married. She completed 3 years of her bachelor's going to school at night after working full days. She always wanted to be a teacher. She was happiest when teaching. The high holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Hanukkah, and Passover, were the holidays celebrated in our home. And for my Connecticut friends, we never did have a Christmas tree. She was president of our nursery school cooperative. She loved to hear the three of us play the piano, guitar, and sing. She felt strongly that all young women needed to be able to support themselves. She went back to college at 46 to complete her BA. She spent 5 years after completing her master's. Her children were not going to be more educated than she was. She taught business education for 10 years at a private business school that later became Berkeley College. In her 70s, she was doing hour-long exercise classes. All the money she earned teaching Mahjong and Canasta and knitting baby blankets for over 30 years, she donated to the Torah Fund, which supported the Jewish Theological Seminary, which teaches young people how to become rabbis. At 80, she was still working in the travel agency. She was the first online to get on a plane, cruise ship, and sign up for the blackjack tournaments, which she did win on a couple of occasions. Her favorite city in the world was Nice. Why? They have nice casinos. Most often when someone would speak of their travels, she would quietly say under her breath, "I've been there." She always balanced her checkbook to the penny. She could tell you how much her total earnings from poker and mahjong were for the entire year. She loved gardening and watching her grandkids harvest the crops. She liked nice things, but she was willing to work hard to get them. Well, I was going to leave this out, but I can't. Okay, here we go. She taught Mahjong and Canasta classes to help newcomers at North Shore Towers make friends and feel comfortable in their new communities, and at the temple in order to donate her earnings right back to the Jewish Theological Seminary. It is written, Mahjong is a game of skill, strategy, and luck. My Mahjong buddies. It was not unusual to hear Mom say, "Just a second," while she strategized to win every hand possible. Her baby blankets for Gazi, vegetable soup, Hawaiian chicken, bean salad, coleslaw, sour cream, coffee cake, and mandel bread were given to family at every chance. She was not much with words or talking about how she felt, or even saying that she loved you. But her actions spoke volumes about her love for her family. A legacy I looked up, is a summary of who we are and how we will be remembered. A legacy means learning from the past. It separates the timeless from the transient. Mom's timeless lessons were clearly the importance of 4 things: education, passing down the Jewish tradition and culture, family, and contributing to community. A family legacy means the accomplishments, beliefs, actions, and guidance you demonstrate in your lives that carry forward to future generations in a fashion which allows family members to adopt them to make their lives meaningful. We are a family that values and seeks education. We are a family that celebrates Jewish culture. We are a family that supports each other. And we are a family that reaches out to the community. We are middle school teachers, project managers, therapists, IT providers, travel advisors, finance support personnel, community reinvestment specialists, and lawyers. Those life choices did not come about out of a vacuum, but rather are clearly Mom's legacy. One of our favorite songs to sing to Mom, and one of the songs that to this day we still sing, is Teach Your Children. You who are on the road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well. Their mother's hell did slowly go by. And feed them on your dreams, the ones they picks, the ones you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh and know they love you. We know, Mom. We love you too. Godspeed.
Well, how do you follow that? But for those of you who know me, I'll try. But those who have spoken before have given me the opportunity to put the fitting bow, to be the caboose, and just say a few short words. I promise you I won't be that long. It's been said, and it's redundant, but it is fitting and proper that we celebrate my mom's life here at Temple Beth Sholom. It was the only request she made when she knew her time was becoming short. Please have my service at the temple if at all possible, she said. As you've heard, we've been members at the synagogue since 1967. So it's approaching 55 years. So you talk about a foundation. Well, I was 14 when we moved here. And as you've heard, she wasn't a macher here. She was never a temple officer, sisterhood officer. What she was an active, as I describe it, in the trenches congregation member. As you heard, she loved going to services, and she loved particularly going with her grandchildren. She enjoyed her time running the Judaica shop when she first moved here, and among the first people she met were the Schlesingers and the Wertentiles, and my mom and Phyllis ran the Judaica shop for a number of years, and they used to go down to the Lower East Side and go do some buying, and rumor has it that Phyllis knew some of the good places on the Lower East Side. I don't know why. Maybe it's because Jack had a place down there. But that's what they did, and they did it for the synagogue. It was part of that upbringing. She truly enjoyed her time running the Judaica shop, She also enjoyed her time teaching Mahjong and canasta, as you've heard, but she did it here at the temple, to temple members. It was pure joy for her. I can't tell you how many baby blankets she made. Some of you may have one. But she did it for congregation members as well. And many times people would pay for those services or for those baby blankets, and she would accept chai or double chai. But it was probably the simchas that she celebrated, that we celebrated here, that satisfied her most. Her daughter's bat mitzvahs when Rabbi Himes was here, my marriage to Sharon, and my sister's marriage to Ron, grandchildren's bar and bat mitzvah, great-grandchildren's baby namings. There was a bris involved somewhere along the line. I know she took a great pride in my second-generation involvement here at the congregation. She did beam the night 20 years ago I was installed as men's club president. She knew the important role she played at that moment and in that moment. And why was the synagogue so important to her? You've heard theories. You've heard some concepts. I have a slightly different theory. I once asked my mother, what was your earliest recollection as a child? Without hesitation. She didn't blink an eye, snap a finger, going to shul with Papa. I used to go to shul with Papa. We belonged to an Orthodox synagogue. And as a 3, 4, 5-year-old, I used to go with him all the time. He would take me, God forbid, on the men's side. I got to sit with the men. I was a little 3, 4-year-old girl. That's not going to get into the halachics of it, but she sat on the men's side with her Papa. When they got to shul, he would go to his spot. He would take out his talit gadol. And when he took out, he would take out his talit gadol, and he would wrap her in it. And when he wrapped her in it, it got and gave her that warm family feeling. She knew the importance it played in that moment. This is why Temple Beth Sholom held that special place in her heart. It is a warm, it is an embracing, it is Yiddishkeit, just like that talit gadol her father wrapped her up in all those years ago. I never heard my mom say, "What about me?" Don't get me wrong. She had an ego, and you've heard she had her own mind, but it just never was about her. Remember I told you about the Mahjong and the canasta classes and the money she collected for that? And you may have heard about those baby blankets, which we all talked about. So you also heard about the Torah Fund. So this is more recent. I said, "Mom, what did you do with all that money?" And of course she said, "Torah Fund." I said, "Do you have any idea how much money you gave over the years to the Jewish Theological Seminary?" "No, I'd write a check, I mailed it off to Lisa, and I know how involved the Schlesingers were in JTS, and I gave a check. But I have that ledger." She pulls out the ledger. I took a look at it. I won't get into the numbers, but let's just say there should be a plaque or a name or her name somewhere on some small wall at JTS, because it's a lot of money. Giving when you know the recipient's identity, but the recipient doesn't know your identity, the Talmud tells us, is one of the highest forms of tzedakah. I think this tells you who my mother was. I kind of lost it when Elise stole my song, Teach Your Children. I hadn't planned on saying it, so you didn't impinge on my words. But Mom was a music person and loved music. And Teach Your Children is one of the earliest songs as a 15-year-old. I learned how to play. It's the only song I can still play on the guitar by memory 55 years later. But I think also the words of a John Denver song sum it up best as well. Have you ever heard the Garden song? Inch by inch, row by row. Come and watch your garden grow, or come and watch my garden grow. Plant your rows straight and long. Temper them with prayer and song. And someone bless these seeds I sow. Mom, you did great. Mom, you made a beautiful garden. Rest easy.
Thank you to all the family members who painted a beautiful tapestry of Bonnie's life. And as you kept referring to the word legacy. Proverbs 31 introduces us to the Eshet Chayil, the woman of valor. I'd like to read you an excerpt of this beautiful poem from Proverbs. I think in some measure it describes Bonnie to a T. Eshet Chayil mi imtza v'rachok mipninim michra. A woman of valor who can find? Far beyond pearls is her worth. Her husband's heartfelt trust is in her, and he shall lack for nothing. She bestows good upon him and never harm all the days of her life. She spreads out her palm to the poor and extends her hands to the destitute. Her mouth is opened only with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She oversees the ways of her household and never partakes of the bread of laziness. Her children arise and laud her. Her husband as well, if he was here to do so, of course. And they say, many daughters have accomplished well, but you have surpassed them all. Grace is false, beauty is vain. A woman in awe of the Lord, she should be praised. So give her the fruits of her own hand, and let her deeds praise her in heaven. I would be remiss if I didn't mention how much Rabbi Lucas would have liked to be here, not only to be with you and to support you, but to officiate, as he has done for countless families in this congregation. But no one better than Stuart knows how hard it is to recover from a serious surgery which Rabbi Lucas underwent just 2 weeks ago. And thankfully he is doing well and recovering, but not well enough to be here today. And I don't want to make a greeting on his behalf. What I would like to do is to requote something I've heard him recite as part of his eulogies many, many, many times. not exactly in the words that he has recited them, because I don't remember every single word, but this is the essence. At the end of the day, when the sun sets, the skies are filled with a beautiful array of color. We've all seen it. The oranges and blues and pinks. And that array of color is called the sun's afterglow. And so it is with us. If we live a good life, if we leave behind a good legacy, if we teach our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, our friends well, we leave behind us a wonderful and beautiful afterglow that can warm the hearts of all those who survive us. And certainly Bonnie has done a wonderful job. You've heard these words from the family, loving words about someone who taught them deep and meaningful lessons about charity, about caring, about education, about all that was important to her and is now important to them. And so she, too, leaves you a beautiful afterglow that will warm your hearts forever. I said before, and I intend to come through, that we will sing L'Dor Vador. For those of you who are not members of TBS, just a bit of history about this particular song. 21 years ago, when I first came to this congregation, there was, as there usually is, an installation of their new cantor. And I thought hard and well what my part would be at this installation. I knew what the rabbi's part would be. That would be to install me. But I felt I needed to respond in some way. And what better way for a cantor to respond but to dedicate a song? And I looked at all the scriptures and the prayers, and this particular prayer spoke to me, as I think it has spoken to members of this congregation ever since, because of the words L'Dor Vador. L'Dor Vador means the connection from generation to generation. And what really is a shul about if it's not about connection from generation to generation? We always speak about the life of the shul and how important it is that it's intergenerational, and how it provides the future of the synagogue and the future of our people. And therefore, I did sit down and I wrote a melody for this L'Dor Vador, which has been accepted by this congregation as part of its canon of liturgy. So those of you who are familiar, you're welcome to join in. L'Dor Vador, L'Dor Vador, L'Dor Vador, nagid godlecha. L'Dor Vador, L'Dor Vador, L'Dor Vador, nagid godlecha. ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושיבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, כי אל מלך גדול, גדול בקדוש אתה, כי אל מלך גדול, גדול וקדוש אתה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור. Tomorrow morning we'll sing Adon Olam as well. At this time I ask you to rise as we recite memorial prayer. El malei rachamim shochein bamromim hametzei menucha nechona tachat kanefei ashchina במעלות קדושים וטורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמות ברנה ליה בת נתנאל וחנה שהלכה לעולמה. בעבור אנו מתפללים ביד הזכרת נשמתה בגן עדן, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה. ענה בעל רחמים הסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה ותנוח ושלום על משכבה ונאמר Amen. God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant proper repose on the sheltering wings of your presence, in the lofty levels of the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament, unto the soul of Bonnie Cooper, Brana Leah, Bat Netanel V'chana, who has gone to her world, and for whose memory we all pray. May her repose be in paradise. May the Master of compassion bring her under the cover of God's wings, and bind her soul in the bond of life. May the Lord be her heritage, and may she repose on her resting place in peace. And let us say Amen. The interment will be immediately following at Mount Lebanon Cemetery, 189 Gill Lane in Iceland, New Jersey. Oh, and the family would like for me to just announce before we commence that the Shiva will begin. Well, the Shiva will be on Shabbos, Saturday night after Shabbos from 7 to 9, and Sunday 1 to 4 and 7 to 9. And on Sunday we'll also have services at 8 o'clock, and that will be at North Shore Towers. And Monday and Tuesday services will be at home of Stuart Cooper in Whitestone, and also Monday through Thursday there will be services. There will be a Shiva from 7 to 9, I'm not sure about services, at Elisa's home in Connecticut. If you'd like to make any donations, those should be directed towards Jewish Theological Seminary, Temple of Beth Sholom, or any other charity of your choosing.